Avoid this false belief pattern. In this episode, I'm going to address the question, what causes most wealth to dissipate and disappear? Get ready, it's not what you think. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been helping people optimize their financial assets and minimize taxes now for more than 48 years. And I've noticed that when people begin to approach retirement, they finally begin to focus on what they should be doing so that they can get postured to not outlive their money. And many times they're shocked that they've been doing the wrong things with their money. So I have to sort of correct or make some adjustments because they've been thinking that they were going to be in a lower tax bracket when they retired and they're not, and so forth. So let me share with you what causes most wealth to dissipate and disappear. And it's not necessarily always the dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility, which I address on this very channel. So let me frame things in what I call the three-dimensional approach. Hence, the name of this channel is Three-Dimensional Wealth. So many times when people ask me, Doug, what is it that you do? I tell them that I help people optimize assets, and then if I have maybe 15 minutes or so, I will pull out even a napkin on an airplane and I will draw a great big A, which stands for abundance. Then I'll say, let's just talk about what true wealth is, or authentic wealth. Because when we say the word assets, what kinds of things do most people think of first? And they start telling me, and it's usually their house, their cash, their real estate, stocks and bonds and so forth. And I go, yep. And so these are just really material possessions though, aren't they? They're just things, but we categorize those under the financial dimension. That's one of the dimensions. If I ask you this, what are the most important assets that you value, that you cherish, that you possess on this earth? And then very predictably, they will say family, health, values, their well-being, spirituality, talents, future heritage, charitable foundation, on and on. Yeah, I put these under the foundational assets for abundant living. They are our core assets, and they usually involve people. So they're human assets. There's another category that involves the wisdom that we gain throughout our life, and that's our intellectual assets. Now, wisdom is a product of knowledge times experiences equals our wisdom. But it would include your education, reputation, systems, methods, traditions, alliances, ideas, and skills. So these are the three dimensions of authentic wealth, and it's like a three-legged stool. When I am teaching people about these three dimensions, oftentimes there is a fourth category that transcends all three, and it's what we must contribute back to society. And this one, for most intents and purposes, people flat out give up choice and control in America in particular. And so most governmental systems have a method whereby we must give back to society, and that normally comes in the form of taxes. Now, I'm a red-blooded American. I think we should all pay our fair share of tax. But in actuality, you can give your time and your talents, and it will have more impact than just writing out bigger and bigger checks in taxes or even charitable contributions. For example, my wife and I mentor troubled youth at a crisis center, those who have attempted suicide. I'm on a board for teenage suicide prevention. My wife also serves in the Christmas box homes for children who are taken out of abusive situations. And when we're there, we have about 42 volunteers, and some of them command over $100,000 an hour in corporate America. But rather than going and working, or sometimes I've turned down speaking opportunities, even for Tony Robbins, where I know I can make, $200,000, $300,000 speaking, but sometimes I will turn down something like that, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I have many volunteers that do this, to be with 12 teenagers who were suicidal, because giving time and talents to lift them up is more impactful than just writing out a check. And many of the counselors say that we're able to do things that they can't even do because we're non-judgmental and so forth. And so many of these people could write out checks for $100,000 or $1 million and say, hey, just have these government programs take care of them. I'm not saying government programs aren't helpful, but sometimes your time and talents is more impactful. When we're talking about money, civic and social, most governmental systems use taxes. And so taxes are actually an asset. I mean, what do they buy? You know, the freeways and school teachers and police protection. So yeah, taxes are actually an asset. Now, we may not agree with how the government is a steward over certain public assets or taxes. Let's not go there right now. But what a lot of CPAs and tax attorneys forget within about a year of graduating with and becoming a CPA is that in the Internal Revenue Code, if you take ownership, you take pressure off of the government to provide certain things for you, you can redirect otherwise payable taxes to causes you support. This isn't a tax loophole. You're just redirecting tax because you're saving the government from providing it for you. So let me use an example here. If you take ownership in a home, you'll take better care of it than if you rent it. There's tax incentives to allow you to be able to own a home. We have a higher standard of living when you own a home. When was the last time you ever washed a rental car or changed the oil on a rental car? We don't wash rental cars, we wash our own cars. So ownership is really the secret to American wealth. Deeds, titles, articles of incorporation allow us to own. Countries like North Korea that does not allow their citizens to own, they're starving. They have to blackmail the world into helping them out, or else they'll make nuclear weapons or whatever because they're starving. And then in South Korea, they're one of the most vibrant, dynamic economies in the world with the number one selling automobile in the world now, Hyundai, that overtook Toyota, because they allow their citizens to own in South Korea versus North Korea that does not. So ownership is the key. Now, as we look at these, the stories that I tell in my various books, and by the way, if this is resonating with you, I would recommend that you subscribe to this channel, because I have over 500 educational videos and many of them talk about these very topics. Share this, post a comment, click like. But when you subscribe to this channel, be sure and click the little bell. Then you'll be notified every time I post a new video, which I do almost on a daily basis. And so at the end, I'm going to show you how you can claim a free copy of 2 of my books that will help you become empowered with what I'm talking about. So let's talk about 2 families. I do not endorse these families by any means, but they illustrate my point. The Vanderbilts versus the Rothschilds. Cornelius Vanderbilt was like the Bill Gates of his time. He was the richest man on earth when he died in 1877. He was worth $105 million. Now, he wasn't very philanthropic. In fact, he only left behind less than 1% of his wealth to charity, $1 million to Central University, which became Vanderbilt University. Do you know it took 96 years until 120 of his descendants gathered together at Vanderbilt University for their first family reunion? And there wasn't a millionaire left in the bunch. It was all gone. It was just dumped in their laps. Hence the saying, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The 3rd generation moving to the 4th generation, the money was all gone, okay? And they were like, what? It's all gone? You mean we're not one of them? We have to work? Yeah, it was unbelievable. And this isn't just in America. In Asia, it's rice paddy to rice paddy in 3 generations. In Europe, it's clogs to clogs in 3 generations. So this is a universal problem. If you just dump it in their laps, they usually get an entitlement mentality. When do I get my share? His grandson said, it has left me with nothing to hope for, nothing definite to seek or strive for. Inherited wealth has been a real handicap to happiness. Whoa! Now I contrast that with Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Now the Rothschilds, they built a banking dynasty in Europe. He died in 1812. And he had 5 sons and assigned each one of them to European capitals, and they would communicate back and forth with homing pigeons, when to buy and when to sell. The point is this: when he died, he did not leave behind an inheritance or an entitlement. He left behind a system. I call this a family bank, but this is not a chartered bank like down the street. This is a conceptual bank, a repository. But there were 3 basic rules in the family bank. Rule number 1, they loaned their heirs money or entered into joint ventures, and the loans had to be repaid. So if you needed help with a college education, let's say, you had to get good grades, you applied. If you got approved, you could borrow from the family bank, get your education. But when you graduated, you paid that loan back to the family bank with a nominal interest rate, so your kids and grandkids would have the same wherewithal. You had to be responsible and accountable. It wasn't a handout. It was a hand up. That's why Sherry, my wife, and I, we have 6 children, and we never led any of our children to believe that we would pay for their college, and we didn't. I worked my way through college at Kentucky Fried Chicken. My wife did, working at a bookstore. We had better study habits than a lot of our friends, and we were working 30 hours a week in college. And I got scholarships, she did too. But we decided none of our children would ever have their college just handed to them. We give them equal opportunities. If they got a scholarship or they saved toward a semester abroad or this or that or the other, we might match them dollar for dollar, whatever, or we might loan them money and they could pay it back with cash, or they could shampoo carpets, paint, mow lawns, but they took ownership and they appreciated it better. Okay. The second rule is the knowledge and experiences those heirs gained had to be shared with other family members horizontally, not just vertically. This wasn't parents to kids to grandkids family secret. This was aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews. Sharing is having more. If you did not share it, you were out of the loop. The third is that the family gathered at least once a year to reaffirm their virtues and intentions, or they couldn't participate in the perpetual family fund, the family bank. So you had to sort of reaffirm what is it that we believe in. They made sure their values and vision stayed there, and everybody in the family got to vote. Okay. Guess what happened to the Rothschilds' wealth? Yeah, it grew and went through the roof. The Vanderbilt fortune dissipated and disappeared. That's the contrast that I'm illustrating right now. So this false belief pattern that I alluded to at the beginning is that equal distribution is the fairest way to treat those that you care about. I've seen thousands of trusts, and most trusts, the attorney sits down with usually a husband and wife and says, now you want to be fair, don't you? You want to divide this up equally when you die, don't you? And if you nod up and down, they'll go, hot diggity dog, I got another one. Because they take your kids' names and your assets and they plug it into the trust, and when you die, chunk, 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 it's divided up equally and dumped in their laps, sometimes killing the goose laying the golden egg. You have to sell the real estate, you have to sell the business because you got to be fair, you got to divide it up equally. It ruins half of the kids. They sit around, when do I get my share, mom and dad? It's the entitlement mentality, and hence that's what motivated me to write the book Entitlement Abolition, because many of these people that come to me and share how they built their empire, they'll say, when I ask them, how did you do this? Oh, I learned how to work when I was young. My parents went through the Great Depression. I've worked so hard for this. My kids will never have to work as hard as I did. And then about 20, 30, 40 years later, they come back in. I go, what's up? I don't know what's going on. Our kids, our grandkids, they don't even know how to work. And I would say, well, maybe you stole that from them. Maybe in your effort to think you were helping them, you were hindering them. You thought by dividing it up equally that was the fairest way to do it. Now, I'm going to make a statement here that regardless of its complexity, traditional estate and financial planning has become a process of 4 Ds. Most attorneys, they will divide it up. Okay, that's the number one rule if you want to destroy, divide and conquer. No. Then they defer, thinking by postponing they're saving tax. We dispel that in other episodes. It gets dumped on ill-prepared heirs and then it dissipates. Okay, wealth is transferred without a system that fosters responsibility and accountability. It encourages entitlement mindsets. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln said the worst thing you can do for those you love is the things they can do for themselves. Robert Frost said, every affluent father wishes he knew how to give his sons the hardships that made him rich. But we don't want to see our kids suffer, and we bail them out. We give them handouts instead of a hand up. And even kids and grandkids can understand this. My wife and I, at our annual grandpa's camp, we give them jars with caterpillars, 5 caterpillars in it each. And they watch in awe as they make a cocoon or chrysalis. But 2 weeks later, when it begins to merge in the measure of its full creation as a monarch butterfly, what are they tempted to do? When they see it struggling, help it out. And if they do, it dies. They remember Grandpa's lesson. When you're struggling in life, we will be there to give you a hand up, but never a hand out. We don't want to kill you when you're struggling. We want to help you get strong as you overcome that. And that's the big difference. It's equal opportunities. There is nothing more unequal than the equal distribution to unequals. And when I say that, people go, what? So let me frame it. I do not believe our Creator gives all of us, his children, equal distribution of blessings, regardless of how some of us choose to, let's say, abuse our bodies, okay? He doesn't give equal distribution of health. It's equal opportunities, because he cannot give equal distribution of health to some of us who choose to abuse our body with addictions or whatever. And so I want to give my kids and grandkids equal opportunities instead of equal distribution. And so many people set up their trusts to be able to have rules of governance that require skin in the game. Give all of your children and grandchildren equal opportunities, but not equal distribution, or you will probably ruin at least half of them with an entitlement mentality. So if this is resonating with you, the secret is this: you want to live this principle of equal opportunities. You need to identify your core values, vision, and principles. You live by the governing principle of equal opportunities instead of equal distribution. You've got to treat them that way. And you can learn about it by getting a copy of the Entitlement Abolition book or the Laser Fund book. So here's how you can claim your free copy. If you go to entitlementabolitionbook.com or laserfund.com, you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. There's an option there if you want to get both in a bundle, but you can get the books. This is over 500 pages of information if this is resonating with you. But also there's options there when we have virtual events. One of my favorites is called Retire by Design, and you can get a discount tuition to attend one of those online. It's extremely inexpensive, and there's over 6 hours of information. This is just a taste of some of the concepts we teach in that Retire by Design event. So go to entitlementabolitionbook.com. This concept I've been talking about in this episode is covered in section 1 of this book, but also you will learn how to create a motto, a manifesto, a slogan, and be able to leave behind how to fish to your kids and grandkids instead of just dumping a bunch of fish in their lap. So claim your free copy of Entitlement Abolition. It's on pages 69 to 75. We'll show you how to do what I've just talked about. And you can get a free copy here or get laserfund.com and get Laser Fund for your brighter future.